Today on Capechi's Corner, we're going to look at dividing polynomials. Now, remember when you were either in middle school or maybe late elementary school, you did long division without a calculator. So we're going to try to remember how to do that because we're going to use kind of the same idea in what we're going to do today. So I'm dividing 6,136 by 11. So remember, 11 doesn't go into 6, so I put it over the second number, which is 5 there. That gives me 55. I subtract. I get 63. 11 times 5 again gives me 55. I subtract, and I get 8. Bring down the 6. And this gives me a 7. And when I subtract, I get 9 there. So this is a remainder of 9. So sometimes you would also write it as 557. And then 9 is our remainder over 11 because of that 11 there. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple different problems leading us up into what we're doing today. So let's take our first example here. It says simplify. So what I have to do is I have to take this monomial underneath and divide that evenly, not evenly necessarily, into each of those terms. So when I take 6x to the fourth, y to the third, over 3xy, so it would look something like this. And then I'm going to simplify. So this gives me 2x to the third, y to the second. Now I'll do the same thing with the other terms. So here's my next term. So that would give me, now again, I don't have to rewrite it if I don't want. 12 divided by 3 is 4. X to the third over x gives me x to the second. Y to the second over y gives me y to the first. And again, I'll do the same thing for my last term, and that gives me negative 6. X squared over x gives me x, and y divided by y is 1. So there's my final answer right there. 2x to the third, y to the second, plus 4x squared y minus 6x. Now, we're going to do one with long division, kind of like we just did with our warm-up. But we're going to take a look at this, and I'm going to use long division, and I'm going to set this up very carefully. So I have to be careful. So I'm going to do this x minus 5. Let's do this. X minus 5 is my divisor, right? And then I'm going to go underneath my fraction bar. I have x squared plus 3x minus 40. Okay, so we call this is my dividend, and this is my divisor. Okay, so x minus 5 can't go right into x to the second, so I have to take a look, and I'll put it over this 3x. So I need to try to get rid of this. So I'm going to get that x. X times x gives me x to the second, and x times negative 5 gives me negative 5x. Now, similar as we have done it up here with our warm-up, I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to change the sign. This gives me a negative. That's going to change the sign to a plus. I draw my line. This zeroes out, and I'm left with 8x here. And I bring down that 40, minus 40. I'll do the same thing. I'm trying to get rid of this 8 right here. So I'm going to do positive 8. Now, again, you just have to be careful because you are going to subtract. So you have to be careful of that sign. So this gives me 8x. And this gives me minus 40. So this becomes a negative. That becomes a plus. So I get a 0. So my final answer here is x plus 8. Now, I could actually check that. You know how much I love to check. So I get x minus 5 times x plus 8, right? And then I get x squared. Outside is 8x. Inside is negative 5x. Last is negative 40. So I have 8x. X squared plus 3x minus 40. Which is what I started with as my dividend. So I know I did that correctly. Okay, that kind of leads us into really how you're going to divide polynomials. You're going to use something called synthetic division. So what happens is we are trying to, first of all, it's going to be set up a little different. So the first thing I want you to do is remember that's the divisor. I want you to set your divisor equal to 0. Okay, so that would give me x is equal to 4 if I'm solving for x, which I am in this case. So my 4 goes in my little box right here. Okay. Now this will work with a number of different polynomials, and I just have to be careful with my powers. Okay. So this is to the third, to the second, first, and 0. So I am kind of going down, which is what I want. Okay. So I'm just looking at the coefficients. So this gives me a 2. This gives me negative 13. This gives me 22nd. 26, I'm sorry, and then I have negative 24 that's last. Okay, so how does this work? Okay, so this first one, I want to get started. I always bring down the first coefficient. Okay, now I'm going to take 4 times 2 gives me 8. That's a positive 8. Now I'm going to combine. It gives me negative 5. Negative 5 times 4 is positive 20. I'm sorry, negative 20. What am I doing? Negative 20. And I'm going to combine. Gives me 6. 6 times 4 is 24. So that gives me a 0. Okay? Now, when I rewrite it for my final answer, I'm always going to take one power less than what I started with. So I'm going to start with x to the second. So my final answer is 2x squared minus 5x, right? I'm going to go down a power each time, and plus 6 is my constant, and I don't have a remainder. So that's my final answer right there. Now, in our next problem, we're still going to use synthetic division. The original setup is just a little bit different. So I'm going to kind of rewrite it up to give up here to just to give you a visual. Okay, so I have 4a to the fourth plus 2a squared minus 4a plus 12. Now, this is really like we need to go to the other side of the dividing line, right? And then a plus 2 then becomes a positive 1. So it really is the same type of setup we have for number 3. It's just the original form that it's written is slightly different. All right, so let's get started. So we have a plus 2 is equal to 0. So a is equal to negative 2. So it's going to be in my little box there, right? So I have 4a to the fourth, so my coefficient is 4. Now I don't have an a to the third, but I do need to kind of keep that placeholder there. So that becomes a 0. And then I have a 2, negative 4, and a positive 12. Okay, let's get started. I bring down that 4. So I am going to take 4 times negative 2, right? Everything gets multiplied by that negative 2, that number in the box. So 4 times negative 2 gives me negative 8. And then I combine. Negative 8 times negative 2 gives me positive 16, and I combine. 18 times negative 2 is negative 36, and I combine. Negative 40 times negative 2 is negative 80. I'm sorry, positive 80, and I combine. Okay, so my initial power was a to the fourth, so I'm always going to go one last, right? So I'm going to go have a to the third as my first coefficient. So I have 4a to the third minus 8a squared plus 18a minus 40. Now my remainder is 92, so that becomes 92 on the top. And then my divisor is a plus 2, right? Kind of like we did in our warm-up problem there. So there's my final answer right there. Okay, let's keep going. Let's take a look at number 5. Okay, this one again is slightly different. So what I need is I can't have my coefficient there be something other than 1. So in order to do that, think about that. I'd have to divide that by 3. So whatever I do at the top, remember this is my numerator, and this is down here, 3x plus 1. So what I really have to do is I have to divide top and bottom by 3, right? So I'm going to divide both by 3. So I'm going to rewrite that first. So that gives me x to the fourth. Now I am going to have a fraction here, minus 5 over 3 to the x to the third, and then plus 1/3 x to the second, plus 7/3 x. Okay, and that is all over 3 divided 3 gives me 1x plus 1/3. Okay, that's kind of our first step. Now from there, remember I have to set this equal to 0. So it's going to be x plus 1/3 is equal to 0. So x is equal to negative 1/3. So that's actually going to be my number in the box. Negative 1/3 is going to be in the box. Okay, so now I do have to use my new polynomial there when I'm setting up the rest of my statement there to use synthetic division. So I'm going to get x to the fourth, which is 1. I'm going to get 1, and then I'm going to have negative 5 over 3, and then I'll have positive 1/3, and then positive 7 over 3. Now again, if you look here, I don't have a constant, so I'm going to have to put a 0 there. kind of to hold that spot. Okay, here we go. The process is the same. It's just going to be a little bit more challenging because of the fractions. Actually, let me make that number a little bit more. So 1 comes down, so I have 1 here. Negative 1/3 times 1 gives me negative 1/3. Okay, negative 1/3 plus negative 5/3, that gives me negative 6/3, which is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 1/3 gives me positive 2/3. I add 1/3 and 2/3, and I get positive 1. 1 times negative 3 gives me negative 1/3, which is positive 6/3, which is positive 2. And then 2 times negative 1/3 is negative 2/3, which again will give me negative 2/3. Okay, so let's get my final answer. Again, I'm going to start with x to the third. So I have x to the third minus 2x to the second plus x plus 2. Now here's my remainder. Okay, so my remainder is really negative 2/3 over, I'm going to say it's over x plus 1/3. Okay, now I can simplify that a little bit because that is a little bit messy. So what I'm going to do with this piece right here is I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 3. So my final answer is going to be x to the third, x to the third, sorry about that, minus 2x squared plus x plus 2. Now, negative 2/3 times 3 gives me negative 2. And then I have 3 times x plus 1/3 gives me 3x plus 1, which is actually what I started with up here. So that's going to be my final answer right there. Okay, we're going to try another one like that, similar now that you have the hang of it a little bit. Okay, so again, I need to get rid of this 5. So I'm going to divide everything by 5. So to make things a little bit easier, this is going to become b minus 4/5, right? You can see that. So that's going to be set equal to 0. So b is equal to 4/5. So that's going to go in my box. I'm going to do the rest kind of in my head now. I have to divide each term by 5. So 15 divided by 5 gives me 3. 8 divided by 5 is going to give me positive 8/5. Then I get negative 21/5, and then I have 6/5. So these numbers really did not go very, very easily with us, okay? All right, so I'm going to start. Bring down that 3. 3 times 4/5 gives me 12/5. I add that to 8/5, and that's 20/5, which gives me 4. Now I have plus 16/5. Add that to negative 21, and I get 5/5, negative 5/5, so that's negative 1. Then I get negative 4/5 here, so I have 2/5 there. Okay, so now I'm ready to finish it up. I started with b to the third, so I'm going to start with b to the second here, my answer, plus 4b, so I have 3b squared plus 4b minus 1. And again, this is going to be positive 2/5 over x minus 4/5. So I'm going to multiply both sides there by 5. So I have 3b squared plus 4b minus 1, and that gives me plus 2/5x minus 4, sorry, 5b. So used to using those x's, we're going to use b this time, 5b minus 4. And that's my final answer. Okay? Great job today. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.